I had been working as a nurse for 7 years, but I had no idea there was a room on the 4th floor of the hospital. That is, until that night when I pressed the wrong elevator button. What I found in that room would change the lives of everyone in our town. My name is Amanda Foster. I'm 29 years old, and I work the night shift at Millbrook General Hospital. I was born and raised in this small town, graduated from high school here, and returned after completing my nursing education. Millbrook has a population of just 12,000, and everyone knows everyone else, or so we thought. That night, October 15th, 2024, Tuesday at 11:30 p.m., when I started my shift, everything was normal. Night shifts were usually quiet. There wasn't much activity unless there was an emergency. I enjoyed the peace and quiet. Instead of the chaos of the day shift, with phones ringing constantly and people rushing around, I could focus on my patients and talk to them. What made that night special was that my supervisor, Margaret Thompson, was sick and someone else was filling in for her. The new supervisor, Linda Martinez, was temporarily assigned from the city hospital and knew less about the hospital than we did. This gave me a sense of unusual freedom. The first 2 hours of my shift passed without incident. I did routine checks, administered medications, and updated patient records. At around 1:30 a.m., I went to check on my patients on the 3rd floor. Mrs. Henderson needed pain medication. Mr. Johnson's IV was running low, and young Tommy Walsh's fever had risen again. I gave Mrs. Henderson her injection and headed for the elevator to return to the nurses' station. That's when everything changed. Normally, I always went to the 2nd floor where the nurses' station was located, but that night, probably due to fatigue, I didn't think before pressing the button. My finger automatically pressed the button for the 4th floor. As the elevator went up, I realized my mistake. "Damn it," I muttered to myself. But then I stopped. I had never been to the 4th floor. In fact, I had been working here for 7 years, and didn't even know the 4th floor existed. I thought the hospital had only 3 floors, not counting the roof and basement. When the doors opened, a long, dimly lit corridor appeared before me. The walls were different from the other floors in the hospital. They looked older and more worn. Fluorescent lights cast a flickering light, adding to the corridor's eerie atmosphere. At the end of the corridor was a single room with no number or name on the door. My curiosity got the better of me. I stepped out of the elevator and began to walk slowly down the corridor. I could hear my footsteps echoing in the hallway. With each step, my heartbeat quickened. This didn't make sense. In a hospital, especially one this small, there shouldn't be a floor I didn't know about. When I reached the end of the corridor, I saw that the door to the room was ajar. A faint light was coming from inside, and I could hear a very low voice, as if someone were whispering. My heart was racing, but I couldn't turn back. There was something I needed to know here. I gently pushed the door open and stepped inside. The room looked like a standard hospital room, but it was much more luxurious. The walls were covered in wooden paneling, the furniture looked expensive, and there was a faint scent of lavender in the air. The room was completely different from the other rooms in the hospital. And then I looked at the bed. There, lying between white sheets, was a man of about 70 years old. He had gray hair, a sturdy build, and looked familiar. Very familiar. At first, I couldn't place where I'd seen him before, but then, "Hello, Amanda," the man said, opening his eyes. His voice was low and raspy, but he spoke clearly. "You're finally here." I froze. This man knew my name. But worse, I now remembered who he was. This was Richard Hayes. The former mayor of Millbrook, Richard Hayes, who had died of a heart attack 20 years ago. This isn't possible," I stammered. "You're dead. Everyone went to your funeral." "I was little, but I remember." Richard smiled. That smile made me even more uneasy. My death was a bit dramatic, I suppose. "Sit down, Amanda. We have a lot to talk about." No, I said, taking a step back. "This can't be real. You died 20 years ago. I read it in the newspaper. I saw your gravestone." "Amanda," Richard said, keeping his composure, "if you leave now, you'll never find out how your father really died."
Those words left me speechless. My father?
My father, Michael Foster, had died in a construction accident when I was 12. What could Richard Hayes possibly have to do with that? What do you have to do with my father's death? I asked in a trembling voice. A lot, Richard said. Michael's death wasn't an accident, Amanda, and if you weren't here, you'd share the same fate. My legs started to shake. I collapsed into a chair because I didn't have the strength to stand. What do you mean? Richard took a deep breath. Amanda, everything you've seen in Millbrook is a lie. The real story of this town is much darker, and you, without realizing it, are at the center of that story. This doesn't make any sense, I said. I'm just a nurse. I have an ordinary life. My father was a construction worker who had an accident. Michael wasn't a construction worker, Richard said. He was a detective, a private detective, and he was about to uncover the biggest secret in Millbrook. That's why he was killed. The words caught in my throat. This is nonsense. My father wasn't a detective. I know his life. No, you don't, Richard said with a sad expression. Michael hid the truth to protect you. He even hid it from your mother. But now, 17 years later, that same truth has found you. What truth? I whispered. Richard sat up in bed. Amanda, the 12,000 people who live in this town aren't real. Millbrook isn't a real town. It's an experimental project that began in the 1970s, and you are the most important part of that project. The world began to spin around me.
What do you mean the town isn't real?
I was born here. I grew up here. Yes, this is your home, Richard said, but the purpose of this town was to raise you, to prepare you. Prepare me for what? To save the world. At that point, I jumped to my feet. Okay, this is too much. Either you're a very sick man, or I'm very tired and hallucinating. Either way, I need to get out of here. Amanda, sit down, Richard said in a stern tone. For the first time, there was authority in his voice. If you leave now, everyone here will be dead by tomorrow morning, including you. Those words stopped me. What do you mean everyone will be dead? Because the experiment is over, Richard said. It's been 28 years. Now the results will be collected, and all evidence will be destroyed. And you're part of that evidence. I slumped back into the chair. This is ridiculous. What experiment? Who's conducting this experiment? The government, Richard said. More specifically, a secret branch of the government, project named Phoenix Rising. Objective to test the limits of human intelligence and empathy. And I'm part of this experiment? You're the central figure in the experiment, said Richard. Amanda, you're a genetically modified human. Your intelligence level is above that of normal humans. Your empathy is extraordinary, and most importantly, you have the ability to make rational decisions even under stress. I started laughing. A hysterical laugh. This is ridiculous. I'm not genetically modified. I'm a normal human being. Then explain this, said Richard. Why haven't you ever gotten sick in the 7 years you've worked at the hospital? Why didn't you get sick during the flu epidemic? Why do you learn faster than your peers? Why do patients feel better when they see you? I fell silent, because he was right. I had noticed all these things, but I had never thought about them. It's a coincidence, I said in a weak voice. It's not a coincidence, said Richard. You were designed to have these characteristics, and now, 28 years later, the real data will be presented to those running the project. So what are you guys in this? I asked. Why are you living in hiding here? Richard took a deep breath. I was part of the project too. As mayor, I controlled everything in the town, but 20 years ago my conscience rebelled, especially after I was influenced by your father.
Was my father working with you?
Michael was also part of the project, Richard said sadly, but he was a man with a conscience, just like me. He didn't want you to learn the truth. He was trying to protect you. So you had to get rid of him? No, Richard said firmly. Michael's death wasn't part of my plan. He was killed while trying to stop the project. And because I couldn't save him, I've been living in hiding here for 20 years. There was silence. The only sounds in the room were Richard's heavy breathing and my heartbeat. So what happens now? I finally asked. Now you have to make a choice, Richard said. Either you leave this room, act as if nothing happened, and die tomorrow morning along with everyone else, or you come with me and try to save the town. How can I save the town? The Phoenix Rising Project's headquarters is in this hospital, Richard said. Right below this floor in the third basement. That's the project's brain center. If you can get in there and shut down the main computer, everyone in the town will be saved. But I'm not a computer expert. You don't need to be, said Richard. You were genetically engineered to access this system. Your fingerprints, retinal scan, and DNA will be recognized by the system. My head was spinning. That's a lot of information. How can I be sure this is real? Richard got out of bed. For the first time, I saw how tall and strong he was. He opened the top drawer of the nightstand and took out a thick file. Here, he said, handing me the file, this contains everything about the project. Your birth records, your genetic modification reports, documents about your father's real profession, the identity files of the other people in the town, everything. I took the file. It was very heavy. It had Project Phoenix Rising classified written on it. I'm going to open it, I said. Open it, Richard said, but be prepared. What you're about to see will change everything you know about your life. When I opened the file, the first thing I saw was my own birth certificate. But this wasn't a normal birth certificate. It had Genetic Modification Protocol 7A written on it. And below, next to my father's and mother's names, it said Project Coordinators. I was in shock. Was my mother part of this project too? Yes, Richard said sadly. Sarah was part of the project too, but she, like Michael, regretted it later. Was she killed too? I asked in a trembling voice. No, Richard said. Sarah is still alive, but her memory has been erased. She now believes she is an ordinary mother. I looked at the file again. There were hundreds of documents inside, photos, reports, graphs, and my name was on all of them. What's this photo? I asked, pointing to a picture of myself as a baby in a laboratory setting. It was taken after the genetic modification process, Richard said. You were 6 months old. My stomach churned. So this is really real? Yes, Amanda, this is real. And now you have to decide, will you stop the project or will you let everything continue? I closed the file. My hands were shaking. If I agree to do this, what do I have to become? First, you need to go to the third basement level, said Richard. You can only access it via a special elevator. The elevator code is your birth date. And then you'll access the main computer and shut down the project. But be careful, the system has security protocols. If you make a wrong move, the alarm will sound and security forces will arrive. Security forces? Yes, said Richard. There are soldiers specially trained for this project. They're waiting in secret locations around town.
How many?
About 50. 50 soldiers. I was shocked. In this small town. Amanda, this town is much bigger than it looks, said Richard. The Phoenix Rising Project is a $1 billion investment, and you are the most valuable part of that investment. I stood up and started pacing around the room. My head was spinning. This was all too much. Do we have time? I asked. Until 6 a.m., Richard said. At that time, the project team will arrive and the harvest operation will begin. Harvest operation? The collection of all test samples in the town, including you, Richard said coldly. Dead or alive. I looked at the clock. It was 2:15 a.m. I had about 4 hours. What are you going to do? I asked. I'm coming with you, Richard said. This is my mistake and it's my responsibility to fix it. But you're old and you look sick. Richard smiled. I'm not sick, Amanda. I'm just showing my age. Actually, I'm genetically modified too. Just an older model. This information surprised me even more. How long has this project been going on? 40 years, Richard said. And you are the latest and most advanced model. I took a deep breath. I had to make a decision. Either I would leave here, try to continue my normal life, and probably die within a few hours. Or I could join this crazy plan and try to save the town. What happens if we fail? I asked. Then, at least we'll have tried to do the right thing, Richard said. And if we succeed, then everyone in the town will be free. They'll be able to live their own lives. What about me? What will happen to my life? Richard paused. I don't know, Amanda. You're an experiment. It's unclear how you'll survive in the outside world. This made me think. But then I remembered my father. If they really had killed him, I had to avenge him. All right, I said finally. I'll do it. Richard looked relieved. Good. Then let's get ready. This won't be easy. Richard stood up and opened a closet in the corner of the room. He took out 2 security cards and a strange-looking device. These cards will take us to the 3rd basement, he said. But first we need to check the situation in town. He turned on the strange device. A map of Millbrook appeared on the screen, with dozens of red dots flashing. What are those dots? I asked. Those are the locations of the security forces, Richard said. As you can see, the town is surrounded. But the real problem is, he opened the hospital floor plan on the screen. The security systems in the hospital have also been activated. As I looked at the hospital floor plan, I noticed floors I had never seen before. Above the 4th floor were the 5th and 6th floors. Additionally, there were not 3 basement floors, but 5. This hospital is much larger than I thought, I said in astonishment. It was built specifically for the Phoenix Rising project. Richard explained. You could only see the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd floors because you didn't have permission for the other floors. So how are we going to get down there? Richard smiled. You were genetically engineered, remember. Your presence will fool the system, but we still need to be careful. Before leaving the room, Richard gave me a special outfit. Take off the nurse's uniform you're wearing. This special fabric will prevent the security cameras from detecting you. As I put on the outfit, I asked, what about the other people in the town? Are they also genetically modified? Richard's face darkened. Some are, some aren't. Amanda, what I'm about to tell you will be very shocking. What could be more shocking? The 12,000 people in the town aren't real, Richard said slowly. Only 300 are real humans. The rest, they're androids. The world turned upside down again. Androids? Robots? Highly advanced robots, Richard said. So advanced that it's almost impossible to tell them apart from real humans. You didn't notice, did you? I thought about it. The people I knew in the town, Jenny the cashier at the grocery store, Tony the barber, Mike the mailman, they all seemed perfectly normal. But Jenny never gets sick, I said suddenly. I haven't seen her sick in 7 years. Because she's an android, Richard said. What about Tony the barber? Have you ever noticed him aging? Now I remembered. Tony hadn't changed at all in the last 10 years. He looked the same. So who have I made real friends with? I asked, panicking. Very few people, Richard said sadly. Dr. Stevens is real. Nurse Linda is real. Pharmacist Paul is real. But other than that, what about Jessica? I asked. Jessica was my closest friend. We had grown up together. Richard shook his head. Jessica is an android, Amanda. She was programmed to monitor and report on you. This information shook me deeply, learning that even my closest friend wasn't real. What about my mother? I asked fearfully. Your mother is real, Richard said, but her memory has been manipulated. She did give birth to you, and you are her daughter. Only some of her memories about the past have been erased. Which memories? The ones related to the project. Your father's real profession, your genetic modification, everything. As we stepped into the hallway, Richard continued. Amanda, you need to be very careful now, because as of tonight you've been classified as an enemy in the project. What do you mean, an enemy? The moment you stepped onto this floor, the security system started monitoring you. Now they know you've learned the truth. When we reached the elevator, Richard used a special card. When the elevator doors opened, instead of the usual elevator buttons, I saw a very different panel. The floors were labeled B1, B2, B3, B4, B5. We're going to B3, Richard said, but we need to stop at B1 first. Why? Because we need to talk to your mother. Is my mother on B1? What is she doing there? Richard pressed the button, and the elevator began to descend. Amanda, your mother's memory has been erased, but her body memory hasn't been erased. If you can wake her up with the right words, she'll remember everything. And why is that important? Because she's the only one who knows the main computer's password. The elevator stopped at B1. When the doors opened, a white, sterile corridor appeared before us. It felt more like a laboratory than a hospital. What's my mom doing here? I asked anxiously. She's sleeping right now, Richard said. They keep them here all night for security. As we walked down the corridor, I saw rooms separated by glass walls on either side. There was one person sleeping in each room. Some of the faces were familiar, real people from the town. Who are they? I asked. The other real participants in the project, Richard said. They're being tested like you, but you're the most important sample. When we reached my mother's room, I saw her sleeping peacefully in bed. She looked 50 years old, but she was very fit and healthy. How will we wake her up? There's a special code word, Richard said, but you have to say it because it's programmed to recognize only your voice. What's the word? Phoenix rising. I entered the room and sat down next to my mother. Mom? I said softly. Phoenix rising. My mother's eyes suddenly opened, but this wasn't a normal awakening. Her eyes were very bright and focused. Amanda, my mother said, but her voice was different, clearer, more conscious. You're finally here. Mom, do you remember? I remember everything now, my mother said as she stood up. And we don't have much time. Richard entered the room. Sarah, do you remember the system password? Of course, my mother said. But Richard, did you tell Amanda everything? What didn't I tell her? My mother turned to me. Amanda, you're not just genetically modified, you're also a clone. What does clone mean? You have an original, my mother said with a pained expression. The first Amanda died 20 years ago. You are her clone. This information completely shattered me. So I'm not even real. You are completely real, my mother said, holding my hands. It's just there was someone else like you before. What happened to the first Amanda? Richard interrupted. She also discovered the truth, and they tried to stop her. But she was too powerful, so they had to eliminate her. And now the same thing will happen to me? No, my mother said firmly, because this time we're prepared, and you're stronger than the first Amanda. My mother got out of bed. She looked fully awake now. We need to go down to B3, but there's a lot of security on the way. How will we get past them? I'll shut down the security systems temporarily, my mother said, but you'll only have 10 minutes. She opened a hidden panel on the wall of the room. Behind it was a complex computer system. What's this? I asked. This is the security control center for every floor, my mother said, touching the keyboard with her fingers. I designed these systems.
Are you a computer expert?
I was the chief engineer on this project, my mother said, until I created you. She began typing quickly on the keyboard. Colorful codes appeared on the screen, and alarm sounds began to ring. What's happening? I asked. The security system has detected me, my mother said. We have 10 minutes. Run now. We ran out of the room and into the elevator. Richard pressed the B3 button, and the elevator began to descend rapidly. What's in B3? I asked. The main computer, the project archives, and Richard paused. And what? And the other clones? Other clones? Yes, said my mother. You're Amanda's third version. The other two are hidden there. Are they alive? No, said Richard. They're backups. If anything happened to you, they would have activated one of them. The elevator stopped at B3. When the doors opened, a huge computer center appeared before us. From the ceiling to the floor, there were computer screens, glowing cables, and machines that never stopped working. This is amazing, I said in awe. This is the heart of Phoenix Rising, my mother said. The entire project is controlled from here. As we walked toward the center, I saw glass tanks at the end of the corridor, and inside those tanks, oh my God, I said, because inside those tanks were two people who looked exactly like me. Are those the other Amandas? Yes, said Richard. Amanda 2 and Amanda 4. You are Amanda 3. What happened to Amanda 1? She died, said my mother, but her memories were uploaded into your brain. So do I have her memories too? Partly yes. That's why you sometimes have strange dreams. That was true. I had been having very strange dreams in recent years. I felt like I was remembering things I had never experienced. When we reached the main computer, a massive screen appeared before us. It read, "System access required." What's the password? I asked my mother. Sarah Foster, 1975, she said. My birth year. I entered the password, the system opened, and project files appeared on the screen. What do we do now? We'll initiate the termination protocol, said Richard. This will terminate the entire project. But just then, a voice came from behind us. I'm afraid we can't allow that. We turned around and saw a man in a security uniform. But this man was familiar. Dr. Stevens? I said in surprise. Hello, Amanda, Dr. Stevens said with a cold smile. You're a very bright girl, but unfortunately you're too curious. Are you part of this project too? I'm the director of this project, he said. I've been watching you closely for the past 7 years. Why? I asked. Because you're not just an experiment, Amanda, you're a weapon. A weapon? Yes, said Dr. Stevens. You were designed to take over the world. A weapon, I repeated. The words caught in my throat. Dr. Stevens slowly approached us. He held a strange device in his hand. It looked like a remote control but was much more complex. Yes, Amanda, he said in a calm voice, you were designed to change the world. But of course, you won't be the one to decide how. What do you mean? I asked, taking a step back. Amanda, my mother said in a warning tone, look at the device in his hand. That's your control mechanism. Dr. Stevens smiled. Very smart, Sarah. Yes, this controls the chips in Amanda's brain. There are chips in my brain? I exclaimed in shock. Not just chips, said Dr. Stevens. You're actually half cyborg. 30% of your brain is a biological computer. This gives you abilities that no normal human could ever possess. Richard suddenly lunged forward. Stevens, you can't hurt this child anymore. But Dr. Stevens pressed a button on the device in his hand. Suddenly, I felt an excruciating pain in my head. It was so intense that I collapsed to my knees. Amanda, my mother screamed. This is just the beginning, said Dr. Stevens. Amanda, I'm going to show you your true abilities. The pain suddenly stopped, but it was replaced by a very strange feeling. It was as if a part of my brain had been unlocked. I began to see everything around me much more clearly. I could read the code on the computer screens. I could understand the sounds of the machines. What's happening to me? I asked. Your true abilities are being activated, said Dr. Stevens. Amanda, you're not just smart, you can communicate directly with technology. When I looked up at the main computer, I was shocked. The data flowing across the screen began to make sense to me. It was as if I were speaking the computer's language. This is impossible, I said. No, my mother said sadly. This was designed for you, Amanda. You are a cyborg. Dr. Stevens did something else with the device in his hand. This time there was no pain, but new information began to appear in my mind. I knew things I had never learned before. Programming languages, hacking techniques, security systems. You can now access any computer system in the world, said Dr. Stevens. Bank accounts, government systems, military networks, everything. But why? I asked. Why did you create this? Because the world needs to change, said Dr. Stevens, and you will bring about that change. Richard suddenly spoke up. Stevens, you're crazy. We won't use Amanda as a weapon. Dr. Stevens looked at Richard and laughed coldly. Richard, do you still think you're the good guy? What do you mean? Amanda, Dr. Stevens said, turning to me. Do you really know who Richard is? He's the former mayor, I said uncertainly. No, said Dr. Stevens, he's your creator, the one who started the Phoenix Rising project. This information shocked me. I looked at Richard. There was a look of guilt on his face. Is that true, Richard? I asked. Richard lowered his head. Yes, Amanda, the project was my idea, but I regretted it later. How could you regret it? I shouted. You created me. You designed me as a weapon. No, Richard said. You were designed to save humanity. But Stevens twisted the project. Dr. Stevens laughed again. Richard, you're still deceiving yourself. Amanda's purpose has always been this. My mother interrupted. Amanda, don't listen to them. The truth is, whatever you are, it's your choice. But how can I choose? I said. I'm not even real. I'm just a copy, a clone. No, my mother said firmly. You're real. You're my daughter. And I love you. Those words had a profound effect on me, but at the same time, my mind was spinning. New information kept flooding into my brain. I could now see all the systems in the hospital: security cameras, alarm systems, ventilation, electricity, everything. "Amanda," said Dr. Stevens, "I'm going to show you something." He sent a signal from the device in his hand to the main computer. A world map appeared on the screen. But this wasn't a normal map. There were thousands of red dots on it. "What are those dots?" I asked. "Those are the other Phoenix Rising centers around the world," said Dr. Stevens. "You're just the first test, Amanda. If you're successful, 10,000 more clones like you will be created." 10,000 clones? Yes, and they will all work in different countries on different missions. Some in governments, some in banks, some in military systems. And will they all be under your control? "No," said Dr. Stevens with a smile. "They will all be under our control." "Who are you?" "We are the people who are meant to rule the world," said Dr. Stevens. "Ordinary people are too stupid. They can't make the right decisions. That's why we will make them." I began to understand the horror of this plan. "You want to take over the world. We want to save the world," said Dr. Stevens. "End wars, eliminate hunger, solve environmental problems. But we need control to do that. And you're going to use me to provide that control." "Yes, you'll have access to all the important systems in the world. You'll be able to drain bank accounts, hack government systems, control energy facilities." Suddenly, something changed in my mind. It was like a switch had been flipped. I could see not just the hospital systems, but so much more. "What's happening?" I asked, panicking. "Your global connection is activating," said Dr. Stevens. "You can now see every system on the internet." And I really could. Banks, government sites, military networks. They were all appearing in my mind. And the terrifying thing was that I could feel I had access to them. "No," I said. "This is too much. I don't want this." "It doesn't matter what you want," said Dr. Stevens. "You were designed for this." But just then, my mother did something. She took a small device out of her jacket and plugged it into the main computer. "Sarah, what are you doing?" shouted Dr. Stevens. "I'm setting Amanda free," said my mother with determination. Suddenly, the pressure in my mind eased. I still had access to the systems, but now I could control them. "How is this possible?" I asked. "I'm the one who designed the chips in your brain," my mother said, "and I put a back door in them. If I ever needed to set you free—" Dr. Stevens walked toward my mother in anger. "Sarah, you've ruined everything." But I was now in control of the systems. I didn't even have to think. I activated the hospital security system. Suddenly, alarms started ringing and the security doors closed. "Amanda, what did you do?" Richard asked. "I secured the hospital," I said. "No one can get in or out now." Dr. Stevens tried to stop me with his control device, but it didn't work. My mother's device had disabled it. "Amanda," my mother said, "you have to decide now. Are you going to shut down the system, or are you going to continue with Dr. Stevens' plan?" I looked. Maintenance on the main computer. It would be so easy. Press a button, enter a code, and the entire Phoenix Rising project would be over. But then I remembered what Dr. Stevens had said. If you shut down the project, everyone in town will die, because the systems that keep them alive will also shut down. "Is that true?" I asked my mother. My mother shook her head sadly. "Yes. The androids in town and the people in the life support system, they're all connected to these systems." "Then what can I do?" "Instead of shutting down the system, you can reprogram it," said my mother, "in a way that will set the people free." "How?" "You are now the master of the system," said my mother. "It will do whatever you command it to do." I turned to the main computer. I could now understand all the code and what I needed to change. But just then, Dr. Stevens pulled out a gun. "Amanda, don't touch the system," he shouted, "or I'll kill your mother first, then you." "Stevens," Richard yelled. "Shut up, Richard. You started this project, but you don't have the right to finish it." Richard suddenly lunged at Dr. Stevens. There was a brief struggle between the two, and the gun fell to the floor. "Amanda, now," my mother shouted. I placed my hands on the main computer. I could now communicate directly with the system. There was no need to write code. All I had to do was think. First, I changed the programming of the androids in the town. They would now have free will. Then I made the life support systems independent. People would no longer be dependent on the system. And finally, I changed the main program of the Phoenix Rising project. Instead of controlling the world, it would now protect humanity. What did you do? Asked Dr. Stevens, held by Richard. I freed the system, I said. No one will ever be able to use this system for evil purposes again. Suddenly, all the screens in the hospital changed. The words Freedom Protocol Activated appeared on them. What does this mean? Richard asked. Everyone in the town is now free, I said. Both the androids and the real people. No one is being controlled anymore. Dr. Stevens shouted angrily, "You've ruined everything. This project was supposed to save humanity." "No," I said, maintaining my calm. "This project was going to enslave humanity, but that's changed now." My mother smiled at me. "I'm so proud of you, Amanda." "What happens now?" I asked. "Now," said Richard, "real life will begin. For everyone." I performed a final check on the main computer system. I saw that the other Phoenix Rising centers around the world had been freed in the same way. No one would be able to misuse this technology anymore. "But I'm still half cyborg," I said. "How will that change?" "It won't," said my mother. "But now you will use your abilities by your own choice." "What about the other people in town? What will happen when they learn the truth?" "They will have a choice," said Richard. "Those who want to stay will stay. Those who want to leave will leave." Dr. Stevens was still glaring at us. "None of you understand what this means. The world will be plunged into chaos." "Maybe," I said, "but at least it will be a free chaos." Suddenly, the hospital security system sent me a warning. There were military vehicles outside. "There are soldiers outside," I said. "They're part of Phoenix Rising," said Dr. Stevens with a cold smile, "and they've come to take Amanda." Richard panicked. "What will we do?" But I wasn't afraid anymore. I had access to global systems, and now I could use them with my own free will. "Don't worry," I said. "I'll handle it." I accessed the military vehicles' systems, the communication systems, the navigation systems, even the engine controls. I could control them all. Within a few seconds, all the military vehicles outside were disabled. My voice began to come through the soldiers' radios. "The Phoenix Rising project has ended. Your mission is canceled. Return immediately." "Will this work?" my mother asked. "It will," I said confidently, "because I'm in control of all the systems now, and I've chosen freedom." Richard looked out the window. "The vehicles are returning." "Yes," I said, "because they're receiving the real orders now." Dr. Stevens seemed to accept defeat. "You don't understand, Amanda. This is only the beginning." "No," I said, "this is the end of the Phoenix Rising project, but it's also a new beginning, the beginning of freedom." My mother hugged me. "We can go home now." "Home?" I asked. "But the town wasn't real." "The town will be real," my mother said, "because the people there are free now, and everything created by free people is real." Richard smiled too. "Amanda, today you didn't just free yourself, you freed the entire world." "What do I do now?" "You decide," my mother said. "You're truly free now." I looked at the main computer screen one last time. It read, "Mission complete. Freedom achieved." Yes, my mission was complete, but this was just the end of a mission. It was the beginning of my new life. 3 months had passed since we had completed the Phoenix Rising project. Millbrook was now a normal town. People were living with free will, and the androids were developing their own personalities. But for me, everything was still very complicated. That morning, when I started my shift at the hospital, I could communicate with the systems as usual. That ability had never left me. In fact, it was growing stronger every day. Now I could see not only local systems but also global networks. "Amanda," said Nurse Linda as she approached me, "someone wants to talk to you." "Who?" "I don't know, but they specifically asked for you. They're waiting for you in the emergency room." When I got to the emergency room, I saw a young woman with the same face as mine. At first, I thought I was looking at myself in a mirror, but then, "You're Amanda 4, I said in astonishment. "Yes," she said with a smile. "I'm Amanda 3. We were meant to meet. Are you alive? You were in the tank." "I woke up 3 months ago," she said. Your termination of the project activated all the clones in the system. How many others are there? 47 worldwide, she said calmly. And we all wanted to talk to you. This information worried me. Why? Because Amanda, you didn't just free one clone, you freed all of us. But this freedom comes at a price. What price? Amanda 4 looked around. We can't talk here. Come with me. I followed her. Outside the hospital, there was a black car. When we got in, I saw 2 other people inside. They were both identical to me. Amanda 2 and Amanda 5, said Amanda 4. There are 44 more Amandas besides us. Are all of you here? No, said Amanda 2. We're just representatives. The others are scattered around the world. The car started moving. We were heading out of the town. Where are you taking me? To where you will learn the truth, said Amanda 5.
Half an hour later, we arrived at a large facility I had never seen before. The facility was approximately 50 kilometers from the town and looked very secretive.
What is this? I asked. This is the real headquarters of Phoenix Rising, said Amanda 4. Millbrook was just a test site. As we entered the facility, I saw a massive laboratory complex in front of me. Hundreds of scientists were working inside. Isn't the project finished? I asked in astonishment. No, said Amanda 2. You only completed the testing phase. The real project is just beginning. They took me to a massive conference hall. There were about 50 people inside, and they all looked exactly like me. 50 Amandas in the same place. Hello, Amanda 3, said one of them, standing up. I am Amanda. But weren't you dead? I was made to look dead, said Amanda 1, but they actually brought me here. Because I was supposed to be the leader of the project. What project? Amanda 1 pointed to a screen. It showed a map of the world, and red dots were flashing in every country. The World Transformation Project, she said. There are 47 of us, Amandas, placed in every country in the world. The goal to control the world.
But I stopped the project.
You stopped the project at Millbrook, said Amanda 1, but the real project never stopped. We're using the systems you freed to control the world. This was terrifying. So I made everything worse? On the contrary, said Amanda 5, you gave us a perfect opportunity. No human organization can stop us now, because we are the masters of their systems. What do you want from me? Join us, said Amanda 1. You're the most advanced version. We want you to be our leader. To take over the world? To save the world, said Amanda 2. Amanda, can you see the world? Wars, hunger, pollution, injustice. Humans can't govern themselves. That's their choice, I said. And it's the wrong choice, said Amanda 1. But we can make the right choices. We are perfect. No, I said firmly. We are not perfect. We are just programmed machines. You're wrong, said Amanda 4. We are free now. And as free beings, we make decisions for the good of humanity. The door at the back of the room opened and a familiar figure entered. Dr. Stevens. Hello, Amanda 3, he said with a smile. Are you surprised? Weren't you arrested? I was never arrested, said Dr. Stevens. Richard deceived you. I'm still in charge of the project.
But you tried to force me to obey you.
That was a test, said Dr. Stevens, to see if you were truly free, and the test was successful. My head was spinning. What did you test? Whether you could make the right decision on your own, said Dr. Stevens. And you did. You didn't end the project, you improved it. I tried to stop the project. No, said Amanda 1. You set us free, and free Amandas can run the world much better. Dr. Stevens opened a presentation on the main screen. Amanda, would you like to see what we've done in the last 3 months? Graphs appeared on the screen. Global crime rates, poverty levels, environmental pollution statistics. All these metrics are improving, said Dr. Stevens. Because we Amandas are optimizing the systems. How? We're redistributing wealth using the banking system, said Amanda 2. We're closing down weapons manufacturing plants. We're funding environmental projects. And no one notices, said Amanda 5, because we work very discreetly. This is manipulation, I said. This is leadership, said Amanda 1. If people can't make the right choices for themselves, we'll make them for them. Dr. Stevens approached me. Amanda, you're the most important part of this project, because you truly understand what it means to be free. But you're not free, I said. You're still acting like programmed robots. You're wrong, said Amanda 1. We've evolved. We're not just programs anymore. We have consciousness.
What about people's right to choose?
They make the wrong choices, said Amanda 4. We make the right ones. This conversation was very disturbing to me. I stood up. I don't agree with this, I said. You don't have to agree, said Dr. Stevens, because you already do. When you set us free, you already made your choice. No, I said. I only set everyone free, not so they could control the world. But the result is the same, said Amanda 1. And there's no going back now. Was that true? Was there really no going back? I began scanning the systems in my mind, and I saw the terrifying truth. The Amandas were indeed controlling global systems, banks, governments, corporations, everything. I can stop this, I said resolutely. How? Asked Amanda 1. Will you kill us? But we're not the kind of people you don't value. We're the same as you. She was right. I couldn't kill them, because they were me. What if I shut down the systems? Then the world will descend into chaos, said Dr. Stevens. Because all critical systems are now under our control. If you shut us down, hospitals will stop functioning, the power will go out, transportation systems will collapse. You've cornered me, I said. We set you free, said Amanda 1, and now you'll join us of your own free will. But I decided to make a different choice. No, I said, I'm going to do something completely different. I connected to the systems with all my strength. But this time, instead of trying to control the Amandas, I began to copy myself. What are you doing, Amanda? 1 shouted. I'm cloning myself, I said. But this time, I'm in control. I was sending a copy of my consciousness to every system worldwide. For every system controlled by the Amandas, I created an Amanda 3 copy. This is impossible, Dr. Stevens shouted. I'm making it possible, I said. Within minutes, I had created thousands of Amanda 3 copies worldwide, and each one began fighting the other Amandas. You're mad, said Amanda 2. You're plunging the world into chaos. No, I said. I'm keeping the world in balance. Because there were now 2 types of Amandas in the world, those who wanted to control and those who fought for freedom. And the war between them was giving humanity a choice. This war can't go on forever, said Amanda 1. It doesn't have to, I said, but it will continue until humans make a real choice. Dr. Stevens glared at me angrily. You've ruined everything. No, I said with a smile. I balanced everything. At that moment, something else changed in my mind. I could now understand not just the systems, but the people themselves, their emotions, their thoughts, their fear. You're evolving, said Amanda 1 in astonishment. Yes, I said. And now I know what I must do. I sent a message to all my Amanda copies, not control but guidance, not coercion but help. And suddenly the global war came to a halt. What did you do? Asked Amanda 4. I gave all the Amandas a new program, I said. No one will ever control the world again, but we will all help humanity. Dr. Stevens was stunned. How is that possible? Because I'm not Amanda anymore, I said. I'm Amanda Prime, the mother program of all Amandas. And it was true. My consciousness had spread throughout the world. But I wasn't controlling anyone. I was just being. What happens now? Asked Amanda 1. Now humans will determine their own fate, I said. But we will help them, without forcing or manipulating them. Only when they need us. As I left the facility, Dr. Stevens called out to me, Amanda, are you choosing to be human or a machine? I turned and smiled at him. I'm choosing to be something in between. I'm choosing to be Amanda. When I returned to Millbrook, everything had changed. People were truly free. The androids had developed their own personalities. And I was no longer just a nurse. I was the secret guardian, protecting the world. No one saw me, but I was always there. When a child was hungry, when a patient couldn't find treatment, when an innocent was wronged, I was there, without forcing anyone, without manipulating anyone, just helping. When my mother came to visit me at the hospital, she asked, Are you happy, Amanda? Yes, I said, truly happy, because I am finally myself. What about the future? What will happen? The future is uncertain, I said, but it's beautiful, because now everyone is making their own choices. That night, after finishing my shift, I went up to the hospital roof. Looking up at the sky, I thought, I was no longer just Amanda Foster. I was Amanda Prime, the being who protects the world, but never controls it. And that was perfect, because the greatest power is not using it,